You've heard the phrase, all is fair in love and war. Well, apparently it applies to politics too. When Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump sexist over his behavior toward women, Trump fired back saying her husband's past sexual indiscretions were also fair game, putting the media squarely in the middle. It's not like Bill Clinton didn't get media scrutiny when stories broke about rape charges, affairs, and inappropriate contact with a range of women, from Jennifer Flowers to Paula Jones to Juanita Broaddrick and more.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Even after admitting to some things, like an affair with White House intern Monica Lewinsky, Clinton survived, to the point where people had stopped talking about it. Till now.
If they play the woman's card with respect to me, that will be fair game.
After Hillary Clinton accused Donald Trump of sexism, Trump fired back, saying her husband's record with women was now fair game, and that could hurt.
Bill Clinton's past does matter. Is Trump making a fair argument?
The New York Times suggests that young women might think it matters as they get up to speed on Bill Clinton's past sexual indiscretions and how those women were discredited by Hillary, who used terms like floozy, bimbo, and stalker to describe them.
And the husband's one of the great abusers of the world? Give me a break.
Now the issue for the media. How many of the images like these do we resurrect, and how often? I have to say that I think it is fair game. I mean, it's material that it's not that old, but you forget about it. It goes into the past. Hillary was the one who really fired the first salvo on this by calling him, I mean, he had some behavior that might have warranted it, but she didn't have to say that. The media was saying it for her, in a sense. She brought it up. He goes and delves back into this. And I thought it was interesting the way the New York Times phrased that piece the other day, because we're all old enough to remember these events. It was, well, it happened decades ago, but it really came to the forefront in the early 90s. But a lot of these young women, including people in our newsroom, didn't know anything about it. They're going, really? And it's giving them pause. Many of them, of course, are Hillary supporters, declare themselves feminists, and the way she behaved towards these women at the time is also problematic.
Well, the media has always loved the Clinton scandals, real and imagined. Some of these are very much real. Some of them are imagined. Interestingly enough, they've never really had much effect on Bill Clinton.
Oh, I know.
He probably could have gotten elected to a third term if he'd been allowed to under the Constitution, and yet it arguably hurt Al Gore through his association with Clinton, and it may hurt Hillary Clinton. Is it fair game? These are certainly a matter of public record. You've got the leading Republican candidate bringing them up. I think that in proportion, there's no reason not to re-explore this issue, but on the other hand, it's certainly not the only or the most important issue that's at stake here.
Let me suggest another reason why I believe these are fair game. First off, we are in the midst of this ongoing cultural conversation about sexual assault, how institutions handle sexual assault, how people who claim to have been victims of sexual assault should be responded to, whether they should be believed, given the benefit of the doubt. As you pointed out in the setup piece, Hillary Clinton played this very key role in discrediting the people who said Bill Clinton had assaulted them. We didn't get in her phrase about Monica Lewinsky, narcissistic Looney Tune, which is really kind of remarkable when you go back and think about it. She was the intern, he was the president. To blame her for being narcissistic, I just have a really hard time with. Also, so in a way, since this conversation is going on, and since Hillary Clinton is trying to run as sort of a feminist trailblazer, I think that gives everyone license to talk about this. Also, Bill Clinton is out now working as a surrogate for his wife. He's front and center. They think or thought that he was a big asset. I saw him the first time he made an appearance on the trail. I didn't think he was very good at all. Yeah. But he's out there campaigning for his wife, so that also makes this stuff, I think, perfectly fair to talk about.
I mean, part of the issue with Bill Clinton's, the allegations around him, is that they span from consensual affair to sexual harassment to sexual assault accusations to rape. Exactly. And it's talking about each of those. You think you can respond to those in different ways. I mean, I for one am willing to give Hillary a fair amount of leeway in what she says about the woman who had a consensual affair with her husband. If she wants to call him a floozy, I feel like I can imagine that being a reasonable response from the woman in that situation. The other stuff is much more fair game. I disagree that the idea that the fact that Trump, that she said something about Trump being sexist somehow made it fair game, or I don't think that one candidate's accusation enables this other to be a subject of conversation. I think that it is absolutely fair game, though, for people to consider the way that Hillary Clinton talked about these issues and talked about these women. My main reaction in seeing this and actually knowing we're going to be talking about this today was I was in college during the 90s, but this is, I think, what is so tiresome in some people's minds about a return to that era, not just of the Clintons, but of the circus that surrounded the Clintons, some of which they caused and some of which was caused by others. But it's just kind of tiring.
And that's one of the ways that Obama got elected. The first time around was saying, aren't you sick of this? Haven't you had enough?
All right, so I think there's a couple of things, and Josh, I think you're delineating the differences in the cases makes sense, because for a lot of this, whether inappropriate or not, and they were mostly inappropriate relationships, they were in a consensual context. I'm all about context and pattern. So when you have context that must be explained so that you understand what Donald Trump is even talking about, actually, then yeah, it's fair game. And the same thing with pattern. Does the pattern of his behavior say something? But the question is, what does it say about her? Because she is the candidate. So now you get into a whole other thing. But I think, for that, both of those reasons, to me, it is fair game for them to do it. Now, how much do we delve into it? I saw somewhere the other day where Linda Tripp was talking. I mean, really, I think that's too much. But I think as much as you can bring in a contextual situation to explain to these young women who don't understand.
Linda Tripp was the friend of Monica Lewinsky.
Right, yes, exactly. Sorry, I should have explained that. And then the same thing, as much as you can describe whether the pattern had something to do with Bill Clinton's behavior and therefore influenced how Hillary responded, and I'm with you. If a woman's hanging out with my husband, I'm calling her a floozy.
Yeah,
I think that's okay.
The problem is that Paula Jones, Juanita Broderick, and Kathleen Willey all claim it was non-consensual, and one of them claimed it was rape. So,
so
those were pretty.
And to Adam's point, we're definitely at a time and place where we are talking about these issues, sexual assault and rape, much more openly, and that has to be considered. I mean, and a lot of those situations never got resolved publicly, so we don't know sort of what it be. But anyway, it's fair game.
The Juanita Broderick thing went so far beyond anything that Bill Clinton was ever accused of otherwise, and yet she seemed very credible.
Very. Remember that 60 Minutes
interview?
interview?
I sure do. This one is still hanging out.
I know we got to move, but I got to point out, too, when you talk about consensuality, there's another case where context matters.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure, for anyone who defended Clinton's behavior in the Lewinsky episode by saying it was consensual, well, yes and no. I mean, if you're an intern, how old was she at the time?
No, it's a power dynamic. It's inappropriate.
Exactly,
No,
exactly.
I hope I said that.
Sure. By the way, I didn't mean you. I just meant people who might have pointed that
good
back
point
in
for
the day.
bringing
And
it
I
up.
think
Let
we're more
me be clear.
sophisticated now.
Right. That's right.